It was the winter of 1941, and Leningrad was dying. The city had been surrounded by the German army, cut off from food, supplies, and warmth. Snow covered the streets. Hunger hollowed out faces. Every day, hundreds collapsed from cold and starvation. And yet, in the middle of this frozen hell, something strange began to happen. On December 6th, a young Red Army radio operator named Ivan Yelchin recorded a line in his logbook. The words were simple: Matyushka, heard in static, no one else noticed. That word, Matyushka, was the private nickname his mother had called him as a child. Nobody else knew it. Ivan never spoke of it again. He continued his duty, but his note remained. A single line in fading pencil, discovered in military archives decades later. The event might have been dismissed as fatigue or hunger, but Ivan's note was only the beginning. On Nevsky Prospect stood an old Orthodox chapel. By Soviet law, it had been closed years earlier. Its doors were locked, its windows broken. But inside, behind boarded walls, there was said to be a relic. It was a wooden icon of the Virgin Mary, painted in oils long ago. Old women of the district had guarded it in secret, even after priests were arrested and churches emptied. They called her the Mother of the City. In the dark winter of 1941, stories began to spread. People said they had seen a faint glow around the icon when they walked past the chapel at night. There were no candles inside. Electricity had failed months earlier. Yet something like light was said to shine from within. One of the earliest written accounts comes from a woman named Ekaterina Volkova, a school teacher. Her small diary, recovered in the 1960s during building repairs, described the children she tried to teach even as shells fell outside. On December 12th, she wrote, "The children whispered today. They said the mother's eyes were shining. They spoke of light where there should be none. I told them not to talk. I told them to be quiet. But in my own heart, I wanted to see it." The entry was underlined twice. By mid-December, others had noticed the glow. A nurse in a field hospital wrote that patients turned their heads at night, looking through frost-covered windows toward the chapel. "They told me it calmed their pain," she later testified in a 1947 interview. The nurse herself did not see the light clearly, but she remembered the faces of starving men and women who swore they did. They believed the mother was watching them, she said. The Soviet government did not welcome miracles. In late December, an officer's note reported unauthorized gatherings observed near closed chapel on Nevsky. Citizens congregate despite bombardment. Belief in glowing icon spreading. Investigation required. This was found decades later in KGB files. At the time, no public mention was allowed. People knew that speaking too openly about faith could mean arrest. Yet the crowds grew larger. Families, soldiers, even children crept to the street at night, hoping to see the glow. On December 24th, a German shell struck near Nevsky Prospect. Several homes collapsed. Survivors crawled out, coughing in smoke and dust. One man later wrote in his testimony, "I looked across the street. The chapel was standing. It had no roof, no glass. But inside, I saw light. It was not flame. It was steady, like breath. People fell to their knees in the snow. I did not believe in God before. That night, I was not so sure. By January, the story had spread across the city. The glow became more than a rumor. For some, it was proof that the Mother of God still protected Leningrad. For others, it was only hunger and exhaustion making people see things. But there was one truth. Even under siege, even in the darkest nights, hundreds of civilians kept gathering near the ruined chapel. They risked shells and sniper fire. They risked arrest, all for a glimpse of a faint, silent glow. On the night of January 9th, 1942, the artillery fire was heavy. Whole blocks of Nevsky Prospect were struck. One shell landed so close to the chapel that witnesses thought it would collapse at once. But when the smoke cleared, the walls still stood. The building was scarred, yet the relic inside seemed untouched. A survivor, interviewed secretly in 1947, left this statement. The explosion was blinding. The houses on both sides fell, but the little chapel stayed. That night, the glow was brighter than I had ever seen. I felt it cover me like a shield. I lived. My neighbors did not. As the winter deepened, rumors spread through the starving city. People whispered that the Virgin herself was protecting the quarter. Soldiers limped to the chapel on crutches. Mothers carried children to look through the broken windows. But not everyone welcomed the story. In a state built on atheism, miracles were dangerous. To believe was one thing. To speak of it was another. An NKVD report dated February 2nd, 1942, described unauthorized gatherings, irrational morale linked to religious object, possible foreign propaganda. The officer noted that citizens were claiming the relic reduced hunger and fear. The file was stamped strictly secret. One nurse's diary survived, hidden in her trunk until her death. She wrote, "The patients ask me if the mother still shines. I tell them yes, though I do not always know. Their pain is less when they believe it. I do not know if it is light or dream. But I know this, more men survive after seeing her eyes." The diary was taken by censors in 1943, but returned to the family in the 1980s. Her words remain one of the strongest testimonies of the time. A young Red Army lieutenant named Yuri Pankratov kept a small notebook. He was not a believer, but he was an artist. On several pages, he drew what he claimed to see from across the street, the icon of the Virgin with a pale halo around it. His notebook was confiscated in March 1942. A copy of one sketch survives in declassified files. In the margin, he had written, "This is not a flame. It does not move like fire. It rests and it waits." Doctors working in field hospitals began to notice something unusual. Many of the wounded who visited the chapel survived operations that normally had no chance of success. One surgeon's record, heavily redacted, reads, "Patient was given no more than 10% chance, but after being taken to chapel site, pulse steadied, blood loss slowed, operation successful, no scientific reason found." The line was crossed out in black ink, but under strong light, the words can still be read. By April 1942, the NKVD had collected enough witness statements to open a formal case. The file was labeled 1241 Relic Nevsky. Only fragments survive today. One burned page reads, "The icon glows only in total darkness. Glow is not reflection, not flame. When observed, subject heartbeat shows altered rhythm, pulse reduced, irregular pattern noted." The rest of the sheet was destroyed by fire. Another note in the file dismissed the accounts as mass hallucination caused by starvation, but attached charts showed medical data that did not fit the claim. By summer 1942, the city was still under siege. People starved by the thousands every week. Yet in the middle of ruin, the little chapel became a place of nightly gatherings. The authorities grew afraid. Fear that belief could inspire resistance. Fear that miracles could challenge power. In July, the order came down. All reports of the glow were to be suppressed. The relic was to be removed and hidden. Witnesses remembered soldiers carrying a crate out of the chapel one night. They said the glow could still be seen through the wood. By August 1942, the chapel was empty. The windows were boarded up again. The crowd stopped gathering. No one knew where the relic had gone. In official records, it simply disappeared. The last note in the file reads, Relic 1241, transferred for further examination. Destination, classified. No location is given. By early 1943, the city of Leningrad had endured more than a year of siege. Whole districts were rubble. Thousands died every month from hunger, cold, and shells. On March 5th, German artillery struck Nevsky Prospect again. Witnesses later reported that the old chapel was hit directly this time. The roof collapsed. The walls crumbled. When the smoke cleared, nothing of the building remained. For the survivors, this was the end. Many believed the relic had been destroyed in the fire. Yet in Soviet archives, another note appeared. Relic 1241, registry line missing. Possible transfer confirmed 1942-43. Current location redacted. The chapel was gone. The relic was not. Decades later, when certain Soviet files were declassified, historians found references to Relic 1241 in reports from 1949. The files suggested it had been moved to a storage facility in Sverdlovsk, deep in the Ural Mountains. But the page where the location should be listed had been torn away. Only a single line remained. Object continues to emit faint luminescence under dark conditions. Staff instructed not to observe for longer than 5 minutes. No other documents from that year survived. In the 1970s and 1980s, interviews were conducted with civilians who had lived through the siege. Many were children at the time, but they remembered the glow clearly. One woman, interviewed in 1976, said, "It was soft, like warm breath. Not candle, not lamp. It made us forget hunger for a moment. My brother said he saw her hands move. I only saw light, but it was enough." Another man remembered, "We were told not to believe, but when I saw the glow, I did. I believed we would live another day." The stories were consistent. Always the same description. Steady light. A calm warmth in the freezing dark. Not all agreed. Some scientists suggested natural causes. They spoke of phosphorus, fungus, tricks of the eye, and starvation. Psychologists claimed it was a shared hallucination, born of despair. But for every skeptic, there was a believer. For them, the relic had been a shield in the worst winter of the war. A miracle no argument could erase. One historian later wrote, "Perhaps the glow was real, perhaps not. What cannot be denied is that it gave hope. And in Leningrad, in 1941, hope was as rare as bread." The relic itself was never seen in public again. The chapel remained a ruin until the war ended, and later it was replaced by new buildings. No trace of the wooden icon was found in the rubble. Yet in classified lists, the designation Relic 1241 continued to appear for decades. The last known entry was from 1962. It reads simply, "Status secured, location restricted." Then the line ends. Today, the story of the glowing relic is almost forgotten. It does not appear in school books or official histories, but in personal diaries, in old witness reports, and in scattered files marked secret. The memory survives. For those who lived through the siege, the glow was not just light, it was life, a sign that the city was not abandoned, that in the darkest winter, the mother still watched. History leaves us with questions we cannot answer. Was it a miracle? A trick of the mind? A strange natural glow in a broken city? We may never know. But what we do know is this. In the winter of 1941, starving men, women, and children walked to a ruined chapel on Nevsky Prospect. And there, in silence and snow, they believed they saw the Virgin Mary's eyes shine. For some, that light carried them through another night. For others, it became a memory that no fire, no famine, and no government order could erase. If this story has left you wondering what other secrets hide in history's darkest hours, remember this: not every light can be explained. Some are meant to guide us, even if only for a moment. Subscribe to our channel for more fictional stories from humanity's hidden archives, and ring the bell, because the next mystery may appear when the lights